When you think of Miami, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it the beaches, maybe the nightlife, or is it those colorful, funky buildings you see on Ocean Drive? You know, the ones that kind of look like they jumped straight out of a 1930s postcard. Well, if you've ever found yourself wandering through Miami Beach, you've likely stumbled into one of the world's most iconic architectural treasures, the Art Deco district. And today, oh man, today we're taking a deep dive into that slice of Miami magic. We're talking pastel colors, sleek lines, and some pretty wild stories behind how this whole place almost, didn't even make it through the 70s. I mean, can you believe that? Almost bulldozed into history, and thank God it didn't, right? Because, it's such a vibe down there now. But hey, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Before we dig into the neon lights and deco designs, let's set the stage. How did Miami Beach become the capital of Art Deco in America? And why does it still matter today? So grab your flip-flops, unless you're driving, and let's go back to the roaring 20s, a time when Miami was about to get a serious facelift.
Welcome to Old Florida Now, where we uncover the rich history and hidden stories of the Sunshine State. Each episode will explore the people, places, and events that shaped Florida's past. Let's dive in.
All right, so let's start by talking about what exactly Art Deco is. I mean, you've probably seen it, those flashy kind of futuristic buildings with all the cool colors. But what is it really? Well, Art Deco, it's a design style that kicked off in the 1920s. It's all about bold geometric shapes, vibrant colors, and like super extravagant ornamentation. Think glamour, but with, sharp edges and a bit of flash. But here's the thing. Miami's Art Deco, it's got this totally unique twist. It blends in these tropical and nautical vibes that just scream Miami Beach. You've got like pastel exteriors that make you think of a sunset or maybe a sherbet. Then there are those terrazzo floors, the fancy mosaic looking ones, plus porthole windows, which give the whole area this ocean liner feel. It's like you're walking through a movie set or something, but this is real life, right? And one of the big styles you'll see around here is called Streamline Moderne. It's inspired by, you guessed it, ocean liners. So, everything's like sleek and horizontal, like it's built for speed. Take the Congress Hotel, for example. It's a total poster child for this vibe. Then you've got Mediterranean Revival, which is a bit of an older style, but you'll see it blending with Art Deco in places like the Versace mansion. That place is like someone took a Mediterranean villa and gave it a Miami makeover. And later on, Miami moved into Miami Modern or MIMO, which is kind of this evolution that like came after Art Deco peaked. You'll see it in places outside of South Beach, more up north. It's got that classic 50s sleekness with just a bit of a mid-century twist, but still feels totally Miami. So yeah, that's Art Deco, but with a whole lot of Miami sunshine splashed over it. So let's rewind a bit and talk about how this whole Art Deco thing really kicked off in Miami. Now we're talking about the 1930s, right? Miami Beach was just booming. People from all over were coming down here for that sweet, sunny escape. And with all those tourists, you had this explosion of fancy hotels, cafes, and apartments popping up all over the place. It's like the whole city just transformed into this glamorous, vibrant destination almost overnight. And one of the guys behind that whole transformation, Carl Fisher, this dude was a visionary. I mean, when he got to Miami, it was basically a swamp. But Fisher looked at it and said, nah, I see a resort paradise here. So he went to work filling in land, building infrastructure, and boom, Miami Beach started looking like the tropical dream we know today. Pretty wild, right? But fast forward to the 1970s, and man, it almost all went down the drain. Developers started eyeing all these Art Deco buildings, and we're like, let's knock them down and build something new. Can you imagine that? These beautiful historic buildings almost got bulldozed. Thankfully, there were some folks who really cared about saving these treasures. Enter the Miami Design Preservation League, or MDPL, which honestly saved the day. They fought tooth and nail to protect these buildings, and because of them, the whole district survived. By 1979, the Art Deco district made it onto the National Register of Historic Places, which was huge. It basically gave the area this layer of protection, made sure these buildings wouldn't just disappear. And now, well, now it's one of the most iconic parts of Miami. So shout out to those preservationists for making sure we didn't lose that history. All right, let's talk about the landmarks that really define the Art Deco district. And honestly, you can't talk about this place without mentioning Ocean Drive. I mean, Ocean Drive is like the heartbeat of the whole district. You got these classic hotels that are just dripping in that vintage Miami vibe. The Carlisle, the Leslie, and the Colony Hotel. These places are iconic. The Carlisle in particular, it's been in a ton of movies, and its sleek pastel facade just screams Art Deco. And then, of course, there's the Versace mansion or Casa Casuarina, which is kind of hard to miss. And it's got this wild Mediterranean revival style that's way over the top. Gianni Versace, you know, the fashion designer, lived there in the 90s until tragically he was murdered right on the front steps in 1997. It's one of those places where like the beauty of the building is mixed with some really heavy history. Now, if you're visiting the district and really want to get into the history, you got to stop by the Art Deco Museum and Welcome Center. It's right there on Ocean Drive and gives you the full scoop on like how all these styles came together and why this area is such a treasure today. They've got all kinds of exhibits, walking tours, you name it. It's kind of the perfect way to start exploring the area. Now, if we're talking pop culture, you know, the Art Deco district has made its mark. I mean, this place has been in so many movies and TV shows. It's practically a star itself. You've got big ones like Scarface, that classic Tony Montana scene with the beach backdrop. Yep, that's Miami. Then there's the Birdcage, which totally embraced the glitzy, over-the-top Deco vibes. And even video games got in on the action. Grand Theft Auto, Vice City. That whole game is like a love letter to Miami and its Art Deco style. Ocean Drive, the pastel-colored buildings, it's all there, just with a bit more chaos, you know? But it's not just on the screen where Art Deco has an influence. That you look at Miami's nightlife and you can feel that same glitz and glam from the 1920s. The clubs, the theaters, they've all got that stylish, elegant vibe that takes you back to the Deco era. It's like the past still shines through, especially when the neon lights come on. It's all about capturing that mix of glamour and fun, and Miami's just the perfect spot for it. All right, so if you're really into the whole Art Deco vibe, you have to check out Miami's Art Deco Weekend. It's this huge event where the entire district basically throws a big party to celebrate its history. I'm talking parades, like street fairs, vintage car shows, you name it, they got it. It's actually coming up in January next year. The dates are January 18th through the 20th, 2025. It's like stepping back in time for a weekend. You'll see people in 1920s and 30s-inspired outfits walking around, live music on every corner, and the food. Man, the food vendors line the streets with everything from classic street eats to fancy cocktails. Plus, they've got all kinds of cultural events, art exhibits, and even some pretty slick classic cars that roll up for the car shows. And the coolest part, it all goes down right there on Ocean Drive with those gorgeous Art Deco buildings as the backdrop. It's the perfect excuse to get out, enjoy the history, and, you know, soak in some Miami sunshine. All right, let's dig into some cool trivia that'll make you want to hit Ocean Drive ASAP. First off, we got to mention the Versace mansion, Casa Casuarina. This place, built in 1930, and it's not just famous for its over-the-top Mediterranean revival architecture. Gianni Versace called this place home in the 90s, and it's now a luxury hotel with a pool lined in 24-karat gold. Yeah, you heard that right. 24-karat gold. Talk about living large, huh? Now, here's something else that's kind of neat. A lot of the buildings in the Art Deco district are inspired by, like, ocean liners. You've got porthole windows at railings that make you feel like you're on a cruise ship. It's like these architects were obsessed with making everything look like it was about to set sail. It's one of those quirky touches that once you notice it, you start seeing it everywhere. And something that still blows my mind, this whole district almost didn't make it. Back in the 70s, developers were ready to bulldoze the place. Can you imagine? all of this could have been lost if it weren't for some hardcore preservationists who stepped in and said, no way, we got to save this. So, well, props to them for keeping this little slice of history intact. So as we wrap up today's dive into Miami's Art Deco district, it's kind of cool to think about how this place isn't just, a relic of the past. It's alive. The colors, the curves, the designs, they're all still shaping Miami's cultural and social fabric today. Whether it's influencing modern art, inspiring new architectural trends, or just drawing in folks from all over the world who want to experience that Deco magic, it's still making waves. And honestly, if you haven't been down there yet, you got to check it out. Whether you're walking along Ocean Drive, snapping pics to those iconic buildings, or maybe catching the Art Deco weekend, there's so much to explore. It's not just about history. It's about living and breathing that Miami vibe. So grab a walking tour, soak it all in, and maybe treat yourself to a cocktail at one of those classic Deco hotels. Trust me, you won't regret it. All right, folks, that's it for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to Old Florida Now. I'm Bo Carter, and I'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to Old Florida Now. Stay tuned for more stories from the Sunshine State's past. Until next time.